Hi everybody. Okay, so we're going to talk about, well, this is part two of August 14th's emails, or not emails, videos. Um, so we're going to talk about the discrimination by the government. Um, but before we do that, I want to talk about this morning's video. I was having a really, really bad morning. I have had my cat since she was 6 months old. She's now 17 years old, right? And um, I don't have my kids right now, so my pets are literally my family. And um, I opened up the last can of food for her today, and I didn't know how I was going to feed her over the weekend. And I'm looking at potentially getting rid of her um, because I don't know how I'm going to feed her. And I've been debating on just letting her outside because at least she'd have a fighting chance, right? Um, she's really old, so I don't know how much fighting chance she'll have, but at least she'd have something. And so this morning was really, really emotional for me. And because, like I said, I've had my cat for the last 17 years. And the fact that I have to get rid of her now is just heartbreaking. Um, So we're going to talk about the discrimination from the Ontario government and the financial exploitation from both the federal government and um, the Ontario government. More from the Ontario government, but the federal government is allowing it, making them responsible as well. All right, so a little bit of backstory. And I think I've told you guys this in previous videos, but I'm gonna go over it quickly again. So back when I was still employed with the Ontario government, my last paycheck in March, I didn't receive it at all. And this put my bills into default and late notices and default notices and an accumulation of extra costs, right? Weeks later, I get notification from payroll that, or sorry, in the following days, I reach out to payroll. Payroll tells me that it's CRA garnishing my wage. Okay, so CRA is federal. So I go to Eric Milano's office, and I have all this in email, right? Go to Eric Milano's office, and he says that it isn't. He reaches out to his office, reaches out to CRA. CRA says it isn't them. Okay, so I go back to payroll, and payroll says, "Oh no, it's not CRA, it's Fro." And I said, "What the heck is Fro?" And they said Family Responsibilities Office. And I said, "Okay." So that's now provincial. So I go to then Greg Rickford's office and um and I finally get a meeting with him. I'd been requesting a meeting for 2 years. I finally get a meeting from him after posting a bunch of stuff online, which he wasn't too happy about, but oh well. It took me 2 years to get an appointment, so whatever. Um, So from there, he tells me to go back to the employer and request a meeting with payroll and Fro. So that's what I do. And that request was denied. It was denied by payroll. All right. So first sign of discrimination. All right. So now, and I said to them, I want to set up a meeting so that we're both all on the same page and that I don't have to experience any more undue hardship. And they had no interest in meeting with me. And again, I have this all in email. I forward the work email to my personal because it pertains to my personal situation, right? Um, from that, about a month goes by and my contract ends and I now am unemployed. So I apply for EI thinking, okay, well, you know, a summer off may not be such a bad idea. I mean, I'll look for work, but realistically, it is what it is, right? And I thought at least I have EI, so I'll have the means to survive. And I was just actually really looking forward to doing a few things this summer and actually enjoying life for a change. And um, that clearly is not going to be allowed to me. So if you look at the screen I have up right now, it says generally if you're issuing an ROE electronically, you have 5 calendar days after the end of a pay period in which an employee's interruption of earnings occurs to issue it. Well, my employment ended June 12th. It didn't get issued until July 30th. Now, from that, I had requested it numerous times, and I finally got the union involved, and the union requested it. Once the union requested it, they did send the ROE into Service Canada, which they told me they couldn't do prior, and that they were going to send it manually. But they sent it into Service Canada, but they sent the wrong ROE. They sent it for the contract previous. Okay, so then, and it was Service Canada that flagged it because I didn't see it. I still have not received the physical copy of it. And, but I was speaking to an EI officer, and she flagged the discrepancy in employment dates, right? So then I said, no, that's my previous contract. They sent you the ROE for the wrong contract. Awesome. They sent the 2025 ROE. Okay. So now I have to go back to the union and say they sent the wrong ROE. They sent it for the contract previous. So now union goes to payroll and requests it again. Now keep in mind, during all this, I've got bills to pay. I don't have food. I or I don't have the means to buy food or anything else because I haven't seen a paycheck since June 12th, and it's now July 30th, right? July 30th, they finally submit the proper ROE, and that day, Service Canada completes the finalizes the application for EI, which was a totally amazing turnaround time for Service Canada. And then on August 6th, I received funds, and I'll show you that. So, but before we continue any further, that is 3 different things that the employer discriminated against. They discriminated against me, um, or I shouldn't say the employer. Well, it was my employer, but it was also Service Ontario. Service Ontario discriminated against me by initially refusing me a meeting with payroll and fro. Then they discriminated against me by not submitting the ROE within the 5 calendar days as per legislation. Then they and payroll gave me the wrong information on who was garnishing my wage. Now they've given me the ROE for the wrong dates. So now we're at August 6th, and payment has now hit my account after almost 2 months of waiting. And this is what I'm allowed. So see, you'll see Service Canada. And that is what I'm being allowed. Now, the important thing is we're going to click into each one of these, okay? So for week 1 reporting period, and I'll show you, see, all formal like. With the week 1 reporting period, I'm being allowed $729 from EI. However, Fro is taking $360 of that. Another $86 is being taken away in taxes, leaving me with only $283 to survive off of. Now keep in mind, I went from a job where I was not considered a low income. So I've got regular rent to pay, I've got regular bills to meet, and all of a sudden I'm not being allowed the insurance that I've paid into for years, right? That is being denied to me. So again, the provincial and federal government in this case is discriminating against me by not allowing me the proper insurance coverage that I should be allowed. And it is insurance coverage. It's employment insurance. That's the thing. It's supposed to cover your standard of living during the time where you're off work. But because Fro is taking that away, I'm being denied that insurance. Instead, I am being forced to live below poverty level. And I mean, my housing is not low income housing. I'm going to be forced to apply for low income housing. But I mean, in the meantime, what do I do? Right? So this is week 1. You'll see how July 12th to 18th to 2026, you'll see how their Fro is taking 360, taxes take another 86. I'm only allowed $283 to survive off of for that time frame. Now July 19th to 25th, Fro is taking $322, leaving me and then taxes $86, leaving me with $321 to survive off of. So more than half of my employment insurance is going to Fro. Now, um, I can't survive off this. Like, I will be uploading some of my bills in the next little bit and showing you what kind of financial straits I'm in and how the extent of the financial abuse from the government. But before we do that, that'll be another video. Like in in the next little while, I'm anticipating I'm probably gonna end up in a merger or something because I'm really not doing good. And um, you know, you look at this, and when somebody's forced into this kind of situation where they're on the verge or having a nervous breakdown, um, and I mean, like anybody in my situation, I'm sorry, but you would have a nervous breakdown probably. If you were a single person and the only person you had to rely on was yourself, and you're being forced into this situation, and you're wondering how you're going to manage your housing, what's going to happen with your pets, what's going to happen with everything else, you would have a nervous breakdown. And the insurance to see that doesn't happen is being denied to me. Another service, another Canadian service that I'm being discriminated against getting. And um, so because of that, I applied for Ontario Works. Now, Ontario Works lost my application. You heard that this morning in the previous video. So now we've got another thing that I'm being discriminated against. Another 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 way the Ontario government's discriminating against me. Um, I don't believe that the Ontario Works application was lost. I think it was deliberately pulled. And because working for the Ontario government as Ontario Works intake unit caseworker, I know the procedure of how applications work, and I'm telling you, it would have been almost impossible for um, an application to get lost. So something odd happened to it, and that just speaks to further undue hardship and discrimination by the Ontario government against myself. Um, so so now we're going to look at Fro's response today. So today I got an email from Fro. And it says, Dear Susan, thank you for the follow-up. As federal funds are flowing at the maximum amount, we can enter into a payment arrangements for ongoing support plus an amount towards the arrears. The forms for payment arrangements were included with the previous issued driver's license correspondence. However, if it's easier, I can issue payment proposal forms again. As it may take time to complete forms, if you would like to make a temporary proposal, please let me know, as it may be easier to make temporary arrangements over the phone if you have access to a phone on Monday. I'm happy to call you at a scheduled time. I don't have a phone right now to make phone calls with. Fro cannot change the amount of the ordered monthly support or the arrears owing. You may wish to seek legal advice at the following resources. And it gives me a list of resources. So one of the things that okay, so these resources, these are things that I've already tried. So one of the resources she said gave me was Legal Aid Ontario. Um, it says they provide information about their family law service, duty counsel, legal aid certificates, and family law services at except for me. Again, another way the Ontario government is discriminating against me. This matter is in a Manitoba court, but Fro with the Ontario government is enforcing it. However, they the Ontario legal aid won't help me because it was through a Manitoba court. Manitoba legal aid won't help me because I'm an Ontario resident. So that service right there, I'm not eligible according to the person I spoke with legal aid. And keep in mind, legal aid is funded through the Ontario government. So it is an entity that, like an offshoot of the provincial government, that again is showing me discrimination. Um, well, isn't that interesting? So did you see how I just clicked on this link here? Access is denied due to invalid credentials. Alrighty, let's try this. Huh. Well, the link isn't working. Well, that might be a resource I can work with. I'm not 100% sure. This is one I haven't seen. Um, so I will follow up with that this weekend. Um, but let's get back to um, the reality of the situation. So right now, I'm not able to meet my bills. I am not able to financially support my pets. I can't afford my medication, and this is all because of the financial abuse from Fro that stems from the discrimination from the Manitoba government denying me legal aid during the trial. Um, and I mean, I had a legal aid certificate. I just was not permitted to have a lawyer there. The judge decided to go ahead with the trial without me having legal counsel, which again, like I said, is it's discrimination. It's a violation of my Canadian rights. Um, all right, so this is the reality. In the next little bit, I'm probably going to end up in hospital. Um, and because my health is continuing to degrade um, with all this stress, my doctor has given me a letter saying that I can't work anymore. And this is where it gets interesting with taxpayers. Okay, so Fro is coming after me, not giving me means to survive off of, not giving me the means to get my medication or pay bills. And so I end up in hospital. Who does that cost? It costs the taxpayers money, right? Every time somebody ends up in hospital with something similar, you're looking at between $1,500 and $3,000 just for the initial visit, right? Then you look at, are they going to be admitted? Which in my case, to be perfectly honest, I probably will. If this continues, because this is completely impacting me on a level that um, well, it's making it impossible to survive. Let's put it that way. Um, and I'm gonna literally walk into the hospital and just say, like, no, I'm not gonna say that on here, but um, depending on how long they keep me, will increase taxpayer dollars, right? And I'll probably let you guys know when I'm going in, and I'll let you guys know when I'm coming out, and you guys can do the math. Um, but every person who goes into the hospital in this kind of situation, A, it takes up a bed that didn't need to happen, and B, it increases taxpayer dollars, right? Um, Now that aside, now I'm also looking at Ontario Works because Fro is literally taking all my EI and or a good chunk of it and not giving me enough to survive off of. And who pays for people when they're on OW? Ontario Works, right? I mean, um, o, OW is Ontario Works, sorry. Who pays for people when they're on OW? It's the taxpayer, right? So now this whole thing is costing huge taxpayer dollars the just so that Fro can financially exploit me. All right. And you know, it's interesting she's talking about payment arrangements. The the on she talks about entering into payment arrangements for the ongoing support plus any amount owing. Well, I can't afford that. Like that is over 540 a month. I can't afford that. I can't even afford my bills right now, right? And so I mean, the fact that this is happening, I mean, it is total financial exploitation. So now we're going to go to the director of Fro, and we're also going to contact the MPP and um, I thought I had this up. We're also going to talk. Oh, here we go. We're also going to contact my MPP and the MPP, Greg Rickford, and see what they have to say. So send us an email. Hello. As per previous hello. Um, I received correspondence from Lisa. What's Lisa? Walton? Yeah, Walton. Lisa Walton. Oops. Hello, I've received correspondence from Lisa Walton with Fro. She mentions on how Fro is presently taking the the allowable maximum amount from my EI. Pay my bills. Okay, here I'm saying, hello, I've received correspondence from Lisa Walton from Fro. She mentioned on Fro, she mentions on how Fro is presently taking the allowable maximum amount from my employment insurance. By doing this, it is not allowing me the means to live. I presently do not have the means to pay my bills, afford medication, or anything else I need to live. I will probably be admitting myself into hospital this weekend, and and weekend, as this has been an ongoing as it's been an ongoing issue and is causing me extreme emotional and physical distress. When someone is exploited to the point where when someone is exploited to the point where it is causing harm to them, to the point where they are seeking medical help, it is the taxpayers that pay. Being hospitalized, this costs the taxpayers extreme and this this causes the taxpayers an extreme amount of money. On top of this, I've also now applied for Ontario, which again will cost the taxpayers money. While in hospital, reports will not be done, so Fro will not be getting any money. The actions from Fro are counterproductive and just prove to cause harm to me as an individual through the exploitation causing physical and emotional harm. The no in the recording with Greg Rickford, MPP, he says that Fro does not have to take the maximum amount, but and if I expressed that it is causing me undue harm, that Fro would reconsider. This has not happened. I will be contacting my MP and MPP directly after this email. Please as I am only eligible for 55% of my earnable income on EI, I obviously can't afford anything but the monthly anything I obviously cannot afford the maximum amount. I can't even afford the monthly basic amount. Okay, what did I do? Oh. Okay, now let's contact Eric Milano. I don't know how to spell his name. There we go. All right. Oh. I'm presently being financially exploited by the Ontario government through the family through the Family Responsibilities Office, who is garnishing 50% of my employment insurance earnings. Employment insurance only allows 55% of your allows So here I'm writing to matter of urgency. Okay. Hello. Okay, so this is to Eric Milano and Greg Rickford. Hello, I'm presently being financially exploited by the Ontario government through the Family Responsibilities Office FRO, who is garnishing 50% of my employment insurance earnings. Employment insurance only allows up to a maximum of 55% of your previous allowable earnings. Of that 50 of that 50 of that 55%, 50% of ugh, 50% 50% of the 55% EI allows, FRO is garnishing. That doesn't sound right. From the 55% that EI allows, %50 of that FRO is garnishing. I am not being given the means to survive. I have inhalers I need for breathing, and I've not been given the means to get them along with other medication. My bills are in state of disconnection, and have already been disconnected, and my housing is in jeopardy. I need help. This email will be included in my most recent video on YouTube. I'll be sending the link in another email. I have applied for Ontario Works, but they, oh, hang on a second here. I have included my EI statements. So let's do that right now before I forget. Okay. I have inhalers that I need for breathing, and I've not been given the means to get them along with other medication. My bills are in a state of disconnection, and I've already been disconnected, and my housing is in jeopardy. I need help. This email will be included in my most recent video on YouTube. I'll be sending you another link in another email. I've applied for Ontario Works, but for whatever reason, they are delaying on the application. Ontario Legal Aid refuses me help because the matter originated in the Manitoba courts. Manitoba Legal Aid won't help me because I'm an Ontario citizen. I literally am being denied services. I'm literally being discriminated against by being denied services offered to all Canadians in my income bracket range. In a previous in previous discussions with Greg Rickford, he asked me to go and try to set up a meeting with Fro. This has been denied to me. I have tried talking to them about the harm, the undue hardship that this is causing, and Fro does not care. Okay, we're gonna okay, I think that pretty well says it. I will hit send. All right, well, I think that is it for this evening. You guys have a good night, and hopefully, um, well, we will talk again either over the weekend or on Monday. I'm going to keep you guys posted on how I'm doing and any sort of other impacts that this has caused me. You guys have a good night.